Pleasant day to everyone. Again, this is our Rafi Nugas, and we're going to deal with the component arts for grade 10. The title of this is Modern Art, Impressionism. For quarter 1, week number 1. MELC analyzes art elements and principles in the production of work following a specific art style from the various art movement. Identifies distinct characteristics of arts from various art movements. Before we start the discussion about Impressionism as a modern art, let us try to find out the following elements of art. Let us recall those elements because we need this as a foundation in interpretation or analyzing the following element involved in Impressionism. Okay, elements of art, these are the basic elements that are used by artists in creating art. They are what you use to create aesthetically pleasing work. When we make art, we need to understand and apply the 7 elements of art. Let us now try to understand the following elements of art. First, we have line. Line is a mark made by a pointed tool such as brush, pen, or stick. It is also known as a moving point. Next, we have shape. Shape is a flat enclosed area that has 2 dimensions, length and the width. Artists use both geometric and organic shapes. Another element, we have the color. Color is one of the most dominant elements. It is created by light. There are 3 properties of color. Number 1 is the hue, which is the name, the value, which is the shade, and tint. And lastly, we have the intensity, which is the brightness. Another element of arts, we have the value. Value is the degree of lightness or darkness. The difference between values is called value contrast. Next, we have the form. Form, that is an objects that are 3-dimensional, having length, width, and height. They say that if you combine 3 or more shapes, you may create form. They can be viewed from many sides. Forms take up space and volume. Next, we have texture. Texture describes the feel of an actual surface. The surface quality of an object can be real or implied. In texture, we can say whether the object is rough or smooth, hard or soft. And last element, we have space. Space is used to create the illusion of depth. Space can be 2-dimensional, 3-dimensional, negative, or positive. So those are the following 7 elements of arts. So we have the line, shape, color, value, form, texture, and space. Hope you remember those elements because it is needed to fully understand the lesson that we have in modern art, which is Impressionism. Modern art Impressionism. So before we proceed to our discussion, which is modern art Impressionism, let us try to identify the objectives of this lesson. First, we need to familiarize with the following elements and characteristics present in Impressionism artwork. Number 2, we need to analyze some elements and principles of arts in some sample Impressionism art. Are you ready? Let's start. Let us define first what is modern art. If we say modern art, it includes artistic work produced during the period extending roughly from 1860s to 1970s and denotes the styles and philosophies of the art produced during that era. The term is usually associated with art in which traditions of past have been thrown aside in a spirit of experimentation. So mostly, artists created their artwork with experimentation and not in traditional way. Let us start the discussion with this picture. The title of this painting is Impression Sunrise by Claude Monet. Now, what can you say about the picture? For me, it portrays a harbor with boat and of course, an orange sun. Here are some facts about Impression Sunrise. Impression Sunrise was painted in 1872 when Claude Monet was 32 years old. It also depicts the port of Le Havre in France, where Monet grew up. Monet named the painting based on his loose depiction of the port. That particular painting, Impression Sunrise, create a big impact to the visual artist in France. That's why it created another type of art style, which is what we call now an Impressionism. Now, what is Impressionism? Well, Impressionism is an art movement emerged in the second half of 19th century, introduced by Paris artists, and create a tremendous impact and influence in some painting styles, like Neo-Impressionism, Post-Impressionism, Fauvism, and Cubism. Now, what are the following characteristics of Impressionism art? First and foremost, Impressionism art used short, thin or thick broken brush strokes. Thick short strokes of bright color. This was to get a quick impression of the essence of the subject. Look at the following examples here. You notice that the painter or the artist uses thick and thin, short, broken brush strokes. Another characteristic of Impressionism art is no mixing of paint. As you look my example here, colors are applied side by side with as little mixing as possible. This technique exploits the principle of simultaneous contrast to make the color appear more vivid. No use of black. So in my example here, pure Impressionism avoids the use of black paint. They only produce grays and dark colors by mixing contrasting colors together. Mean to say, they only produce dark colors on their painting because of the overlapping of contrasting colors. It is also influence of photography. As my example shows, photography made its appearance in the early 19th century. And by the time of Impressionists, technical advances had led to the development of snapshot camera. So this photography influences the scenery or the painting of Impressionism. It captures fleeting moment or a snapshot of time. Next, painting outdoors. Some of the subject used in Impressionism style of art is an outdoor landscape. Impressionist artists do the painting outside. They didn't simply want to paint the shapes of the landscape, but were more interested in capturing the light and the weather. Some of those paintings in Impressionism always shows that there is a source of light. there is shadow, there is reflection if the subject used is water. So some of those paintings are done outside and not in the studio. And lastly, lighting. In Impressionism art, lighting is very important. Several Impressionist painters devoted entire series of paintings to a single object, observed during different times of the day. One of these is the Monet's haystack series. These are the perfect example of a dedication to lighting. So I do have here some example that shows the different picture of haystack created by Claude Monet. Haystack is the common English title for a series of Impressionist paintings by Claude Monet. The principal subject of each painting in the series is stacks, harvested wheat, possibly barley or oats. The original French title of this is Les Muelles Givenry. Simply means the stacks at Givenry. Now I do have here a picture of haystack in different lighting effect. Remember that Claude Monet uses lighting and able to create different lighting effect to a single object or subject. This is the picture of haystack at the end of summer morning, compared to haystack at the white frost. Another lighting effect, haystack at the midday, and haystack at the foggy morning. And lastly, Claude Monet paint haystack in the toast sunset and a haystack in sunset snow. So those are the following lighting effects used by Claude Monet and able to create a different kinds of lighting effect in Impressionism painting using the haystack. So let us sum up our discussion for this moment. The following characteristics of Impressionism arts are: 1. Use of short, thin or thick broken brush strokes. Number 2. No mixing of paint, especially in the palette. No use of black color. Impressionist artists also use the influence of photography. Number 5. Painting outdoors. And lastly, Impressionist artists use the lighting effect. I hope that you learned something about our topic for this moment. Thank you very much for watching.